Court, Commissioner.
Thank you, Your Lordship and Commissioner.
My name is Fatuma Sichale, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioners, for that introduction. Council, we will begin the interview. The Commissioners will be engaging you on your application that you made for the position of a judge of the High Court. Before we delve into it, you can confirm to us your county.
My lady, my county is Siaya.
Siaya. And your ethnicity?
Your Lordship, my ethnicity is Luo.
Luo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Masharia will take it from there.
All right, just a few questions, my brother. Now, I'm looking at your CV, and what I've noted is that you started from private practice, then moved to police service, then became a public prosecutor, then moved to judiciary, then after that moved out again and went to the IEBC, the Electoral Commission. Now, so I'm trying to understand what exactly is it that you are pursuing, because, you know, there doesn't seem to be one line that you are pursuing which moves to your career objective, you know. So could you explain to us this movement from one area to the other, then to back to this, and then, you know, it seems to be a little bit confusing to me. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just for us to understand, because when we are looking for somebody who is really committed to pursuit of justice as a, you know, as somebody who will be determining matters as a judge.
Thank you, Commissioner. My drive is pursuit for excellence in public service. Save for the first 4 years that I was engaged in private practice, Commissioner, I have been in public service for 17 good years, and my cycle of operation has been within the court situation. Even as I pursued training with the National Police Service, I attained competencies in investigation and prosecution that was necessary for the discharge of my duties within the court precincts as an investigator and also subsequently as a prosecutor. Again, when I joined the judiciary, the drive was to serve in the justice sector, having practiced as an advocate, litigation counsel, having acquired wealth of knowledge and skills in investigation and prosecution, basically having gone round the legal cycle, I felt that time was ripe for me to sit in the bench to deliver justice. Commissioner, I left the judiciary, not in a bad way. If you look at my resignation letter, there is very clear indication of a desire to come back to the judiciary. In the last paragraph of the resignation letter that I tendered to the judiciary, I was attracted by an advertisement by a sister commission, and I looked at the qualifications that were indicated in that advert. If you permit me, Your Lordship, they needed an advocate then of a minimum of 8 years experience. They needed an advocate who had trained as an inspector of police. They needed an advocate who had experience in adjudication of cases, either as a magistrate or a member of a tribunal. Your Lordship, I looked around the country, knowing the colleagues that were in my class at the Kenya Police Training College, Kiganjo, and I discerned that we could probably have been only 3 people in this country. So I did not want to let down public service, and that is why I joined the IEBC. Again, as a matter of career progression, the mandate of the Manager Investigation and Prosecution, the office that I occupied, was countrywide. I was in charge of investigating all election offenses and prosecuting all election offenses in this country under the Elections Act then, before the mandate was changed to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution under the auspices of the Election Offences Act. So I looked at that as an opportunity to progress. Your Lordship, I believe I have reached my optimum at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission as the Director of Legal Services. There is no opportunity to move upwards along the line of legal services. The opportunity, with humility, Your Lordship, is in this commission, to the State Office of a Judge of the High Court. Thank you.
Yeah.
Your Lordship.
No, I don't doubt about your ability at all. I don't doubt about your integrity. It's solid. I don't doubt about your competencies. But you see, in view of the fact that there are many who have also applied, you know, you'll appreciate that one of the determining factors of success in any position that one applies for is the passion for that particular position. So which brings me to the issue that, yes, it's okay, you want to serve in public service, and you've served diligently, that is no doubt.
Thank you.
But why a judge? Because see, you've also said that for you, you've reached the apex, and there's no other opportunity for you to progress in IEBC. But you see, that's not enough for us, because that's for you. For us as JSC, we are not looking for somebody who's looking for their own career progression because they've reached the apex. We're looking for somebody who will satisfy us that they have the
judicial review. I have also been able to acquire competencies in the area of impartiality. Being the captain of electoral dispute resolution at IEBC, I have mastered the art of impartiality in deciding pre-election related cases. I'm also an independent-minded person, Your Lordship, and that is what has enabled me deliver at the Commission. At the Commission, we interact with stakeholders who are politicians and who will always want it to go their way. So my solid basis of independence, integrity, has enabled me to discharge my duties without being compromised at all. I'm also a very diligent person, and I know judgeship requires diligence.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Mr. Otieno, indeed, looking at your letter of application and your CV, you've gone against the grain by being in the judiciary, going to serve in the police force, serving at IEBC, etc., etc., which many of us who are trained as lawyers do not seem to do. And that I want to commend you for really going against the norm. But one or two questions for you. I noticed that you've also at some point been a prosecutor. Yeah? The Penal Code provides different kinds of punishments for a person who is convicted of a criminal offense. Just name a few of them, say about five or so. The different kinds of punishments that can be meted out.
Your Lordship, indeed the Penal Code avails a raft of sentences that can be meted out. There is the sentence of imprisonment. There is also the sentence of payment of a fine.
Correct.
There is also the sentence or an order for compensation.
Right.
We also have the sentence, suspended sentence. Can have a suspended sentence.
Yes.
When the sentence is for not more than 2 years. We also have a sentence based on conditionalities, discharge on certain conditions.
Very well. So imagine yourself as a High Court judge, you're conducting a murder trial, and at the end of the trial, you find the accused person guilty of the offense of murder. However, this accused person is below the age of 18 years. How do you proceed after that?
Your Lordship, I have to be satisfied, one, that the person is below the age of 18 by directing an age assessment on the convict. And when the age assessment report is presented, I'll consider it. I'll also require the probation department to do pre-sentence report about the convict.
So fair enough, the person is below, it's been certified that the person is below 18 years.
Thank you, Your Lordship. I will not commit that person to prison.
Where do you
We
take
have
him or
postal
her?
institutions, Your Lordship, that take good care of minor offenders or offenders who are minors below the age of 18.
What about the sentence to serve at the president's pleasure?
Yes, the president appoints the Power of Mercy Committee. That committee has the mandate to consider clemency on convicts. Probably it could be one area that would be worth considering, but that is based on the mandate of that committee.
There is some school of thought that sentencing an accused person to serve at the president's pleasure is tantamount to the judiciary ceding its mandate on sentencing. What are your views on that?
Well, in the period preceding the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the power of mercy that is exercised by the president on recommendation by the committee would sit well under that dispensation. But with the new constitution, I want to believe that that is an area that needs to be looked at. Probably the courts need to develop indigenous jurisprudence along that line, because then the person serves at the pleasure of the power of mercy, is at the pleasure of the executive. Yet our constitution, which adopts the doctrine of separation of powers under what Montesquieu calls trias politica, would not be fulfilled by allowing the head of the executive to exercise judicial power.
So you think there is some form of interference there?
Certainly, I am persuaded, Your Lordship.
Thank you. That's all from me.
Yes, now that you have gone to the Constitution, I think I will begin there by asking you, what is your understanding of the supremacy of the Constitution, and ask you to give me 4 aspects based on your understanding why the Constitution is supreme. Give me 4 instances.
Your Lordship, the Constitution of Kenya is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution itself declares this supremacy under Article 2 of the Constitution. The Constitution is supreme because it espouses principles and values that are necessary for good order of the country. The Constitution also...
There are other laws that espouse values, not just the Constitution. So I want you to zero in on why is it supreme.
Your Lordship, yes, there are other laws that espouse those values and principles, but then those laws derive their legitimacy from the Constitution. So even as they replicate the provisions of the Constitution, the legitimacy of those laws is in the Constitution. The Constitution also is supreme because it creates government, essentially the three arms of government. It's the basis of governance of this country. Without it, there cannot be...
Yeah, that is one. It gives authority to the levels of government. Number two.
Your Lordship, the Constitution also is the foundational document on fundamental rights and freedoms. These are rights and freedoms that are inalienable and that are bestowed on every citizen of the country to enjoy without unreasonable limitation. So insofar as the Constitution provides the rights and the fundamental freedoms, it is supreme.
So, any other?
Your Lordship, the Constitution is also supreme because it has objects that unify or put together the country. Looking at the preamble of the Constitution, for instance, issues about inclusivity, issues around ethnic, social, and religious harmony of the country is derived from the Constitution.
I would have expected you to talk about inconsistencies. If there are any inconsistencies with the Constitution,
yes, Your Lordship.
The Constitution remains supreme.
Yes, Your Lordship.
We can leave that area and go to another area of practice. If you are successful in this bid and you are sent to a court station, what are the 5 things that you would do to make your station efficient?
Your Lordship, there are quite a number of things that I would do, and I would seek guidance from the blueprint that has been initiated or promulgated by the Judiciary, STAJ, the Social Transformation Through Access to Justice Blueprint. I would first of all engage my staff to identify their various competencies so that I can be satisfied that each staff is indeed serving in the appropriate area of competency.
Okay, those are 2.
I would also engage the environment around the court so that because the court does not operate in exclusion, I will engage the court users committees that are in place. I would also engage any institutions that exist as alternative
stakeholder engagement.
Stakeholder engagement.
Yes.
I would also,
Number 4.
Your Lordship, I would also ensure that there is good collaboration as between the partners of justice that exist within the court's jurisdiction, such as the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution.
Yes.
I would also explore the avenues available for alternative dispute resolution and also alternative justice systems that are consistent with the constitutional purposes.
Okay, Justice Majanja.
Yes, good morning. Just one question.
Good morning, Your Lordship.
I was reading a story the other day in the newspaper, and this doctor was complaining that he had been imprisoned for life for robbery with violence after he had been found with a mobile phone. So can you just explain to us why would he have been convicted?
Your Lordship, I would think that probably the mobile phone may have belonged to the deceased person, and therefore that was the connection between his possession of the mobile phone and the trial. Probably, Your Lordship...
So what do we call that doctrine?
The
one that applies that kind
The
of
doctrine
activity?
of recent possession.
Okay.
Yes.
So would it make a difference if the phone was found a few days after or a year after?
It would make a difference, Your Lordship, because the doctrine of recent possession applies when the time between the commission of the offense and the time of arrest or recovery of the property is short. If the period is prolonged, then there could have probably have been intervening factors in between that would certainly not render him culpable.
Okay. And finally, can you illustrate to us the difference between horizontal and vertical application of human rights by way of illustration?
Thank you, Your Lordship. Horizontal application of human rights basically is from top to bottom. It is about human rights as between the common consumers of justice, that is persons, and state power or public power. Ordinarily, the Constitution, that is vertical. Horizontal is between the persons, inter se, and also between persons and other entities such as corporations or multinationals. Horizontal application, Your Lordship, may apply in the instance of a company, for instance, that sets up a factory, and the factory does not undertake what is called environmental impact assessment of its activities. As a result of its operations, there is, for instance, effluent from the factory that then interferes with the environmental rights of persons who reside or the health rights of persons who reside within the precincts of the factory. Thank you, Your Lordship.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, CJ. Council.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Thank you very much. For me, I also join. I also join hands with the commissioners who appreciate that that you did something unique, and I think you should be commended for that. Joining the police force, the National Police Force, that's part of a very important institution in Kenya, and you have gone from place to place, but you have remained within the legal sector.
Thank you, Your Lordship.
So I commend you for that. What I will ask you, I saw that you mentioned STAJ. One of the principles of STAJ is access to justice. And I can see that you are an expert, if I would say from your writings, on election matters. You have participated in election cases and so on. So tell me about the importance of access to justice in terms of electoral integrity.
Thank you, Your Lordship. Access to justice is a constitutional prescription. Elections take place within the ambit of the Constitution. I would refer to the provisions of Chapter 7 on representation that enlists the guiding principles of an electoral system. Integrity is a very key factor. Integrity of the electoral process by persons who conduct the elections, so that those who...
How do you access justice?
Yes.
How do you access justice towards attaining election integrity?
Yes, justice is attained by allowing persons who participate in elections and who lose in those elections to be able to petition the results of the elections. And the justice architecture is such that there are appellate opportunities available to those who lose in the election petitions, even at the first tier. So there is this an opportunity for persons who participate in elections and lose, or persons who feel that the elections was not conducted in a free and fair manner, to access justice through the court system. There's also access in the pre-election period, Your Lordship, through committees, for instance, the IEBC Dispute Resolution Committee that the Supreme Court has recognized as a very, very effective pre-election dispute resolution forum.
Okay, thank you. I can see one of the documents, in one of your documents presented.
Yes, my lord.
We have the Global Commission, the International Covenant on Civil Rights and Political Rights.
Yes, my lord.
It was done by which people?
It's a UN convention.
And one of the principles they set out is that the rule of law and access to justice is a cornerstone of electoral integrity.
That is true, Your Lordship.
Mm-hmm. So, apart from the access, what about the remedies?
The remedies, Your Lordship, that are available are many. For instance, if the Judiciary or the Justice Resolution Committee of the IEBC finds that probably there were election transgressions that were committed, then remedies available. For instance, in election petitions, an election can be nullified. In an election petition also, there can be a declaration by the court on who actually won the elections.
So do you agree that apart from the accessing the justice system, even the remedies, finally, at the end of the day, they are part of the access, the right to access to justice?
Very well, Your Lordship. I agree entirely, because that is the end result of the dispensation of justice. Justice is hollow if there are no remedies that avail.
Thank you. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Your Lordship.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning once again, Council.
Good morning, Commissioner.
I remember when we started our practice, we were with you in Kisumu, and we used to come to you for precedents, and I'm happy that you continue writing well. I have gone through your sample writings. You write very well. Though I have concerns with regards to 3 of your sample writings. One is an internal memo to the chairperson of the IEBC. Did you get the necessary authorization for you to then present this internal memo to the Commission as a sample writing?
Yes, Your Lordship. I got authorization from my supervisor, that is the Commission Secretary.
Is it among the documents you presented to us?
The
authorization, because an internal document should not be shared unless you get prior authorization. Public document. Yes.
I do not have a document giving me authority, but it is an advisement that I authored.
Which is okay, which I say it's okay, it's well written, but just how you then present it. It's supposed to be internal to the chairperson, and you have here 11 commissioners, member of staff, reviewing an internal memo without an accompanying authorization from the CEO.
I agree, unfortunately, yes, Commissioner, but I took it that the Judicial Service Commission needed to know how well I write, how well I articulate issues, and how well I advise on legal matters. Okay. And that's why I picked on it, but I agree there's no authorization.
Okay, thank you. And then the other sample writing is election petition in Hola. Again, the author is the firm of Abdul Hakim and Company Advocates, not yourself, though you have deponed to an affidavit, but down under it, it's written as drawn and filed by Abdul Hakim and Company Advocates, not you.
Yes, Commissioner. If I could explain, I am the deponent. It's an affidavit. Whatever is expressed in that affidavit is my thought and my appreciation of the law. As a commission, we contract external law firms to represent us in a number of cases. Although I also represent the commission, and I've represented the commission up to the Supreme Court in matters. But because of the multitude of cases that present during the election period, we contract. And in that case, we contracted the firm of Abdul Hakim to represent us in that election petition. It was an MCA petition.
Yes.
But I presented it because I wanted Your Lordship to explain my in-depth appreciation of the election under the party list framework.
Which is okay, but what my concern is, it is drawn and filed by. So the author here is the firm of Abdul Hakim.
Yes,
Drawn by
legally,
that
yes.
firm.
Yes,
So
legally,
there's
the
also,
commissioner.
we are not able to say whether it is you or the firm that, okay, based on the information, it is the firm that drew it. And then lastly, the last sample writing is by the special committee on IEBC with regards to Senator Masika Wetangula. Then, again, if you look at the persons who've signed off as the authors, you are not listed. Again, just the question in terms of authorship. Are you the one who prepared this decision? And if that is the case, what does that say with regards to the decisional independence of the persons who have signed off as the authors of this document?
Yes, Your Lordship. If I could explain. In the year 2015, December, the Supreme Court pronounced itself on an election petition respecting Senator Moses Masika Wetangula and nullified his election as a senator, the senator of Bungoma. And what was presented to the commission was the commission was supposed to make a decision as to whether or not to allow him to remain in the register of voters on account of the findings of the Supreme Court. I was appointed the secretary of this special committee on Senator Moses Wetangula, and if you look at the document, you will see my certification at the bottom as the secretary. I was duly gazetted in the Kenya Gazette by the commission, and the members of the committee were as represented in the judgment. I wrote the judgment. I researched as the secretary. Of course, the judgment needed the approval of the committee. I was part of the committee because we were gazetted together. So it was collective work, and that is why I have presented that as a sample writing, because my judicial wisdom, my legal knowledge is in that judgment.
Okay, I do understand, though to the best of my ability, I know even if you are appointed as a judge and you get a researcher, what you get a researcher to do for you, research, they will present an opinion. So what you ought to have then presented to the commission was your opinion and not the decision of these three gentlemen. Would you agree with me? Because you're not the one who was expected to make the actual decision as a secretary.
Commissioner, my situation is a bit different from that of a researcher. Because
I just want then maybe what you could do, explain to us what the role of the secretary is.
The secretary is the technical expert who guides the committee on the matter before it. The secretary does the draft of the ruling and then sits with the committee members, takes them through the draft, invites interventions or corrections from the committee members, and then comes up with the final draft of the ruling for purposes of execution by the commissioners. The secretary is different from a researcher because the secretary is gazetted.
Yes, I just wanted to bring that example because listening to you mentioning the role of a secretary, so who is the author? Who bears the responsibility of this decision at the end of the day? If somebody is filing a judicial review or an appeal, what would they mention there? An appeal against the decision of who and who specifically?
Of the entire committee that was gazetted. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning once again.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Now, you have been at IEBC for how long?
I joined IEBC in the year 2013, so this is my 11th year at IEBC.
Okay. So now, you've heard of the phrase oxygen principles?
Yes, under the Civil Procedure
Yes.
Act, yes.
So explain to us what they are and also the objective of those principles.
The oxygen principle is, it's called the oxygen principle. That is its Chrisphine name. But it's the overriding objective of the Civil Procedure Act and rules to dispense justice, expeditious hearing, to enable expeditious hearing and determination of matters. Yes.
So what are the objectives of those overriding?
The objectives,
or rather the objectives of the oxygen principles?
The objectives are, one, to ensure that there is access to justice by litigants, and then that justice is also dispensed without delay. It will also ensure that the rights of parties to a dispute on the right to fair hearing is realized. Again, under the civil procedure rules, there should be due regard to technicalities of procedure or procedural technicalities, that justice needs to be dispensed without much regard to those procedural technicalities.
Okay, you could put it a bit more elegantly, but I'll take that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
My second question, if today I went to the IEBC and I asked the people you work with, what is Mr. Owiye's greatest achievement since joining the IEBC, attributed to yourself, what would they tell me?
Thank you, Commissioner. I am a celebrated person at IEBC because of the wonders that I have done at IEBC. I have commendations from the Commission in the form of certificates. Through my judicial knowledge and experience, I guided the establishment of the Electoral Code of Conduct of the Commission that has registered tremendous success in 2017, for instance, and in 2022, when that committee faced challenge in court, in the case of Honorable Sabina Chege versus IEBC, it's constitutional petition number 73 of 2022. I defended the commission in court, and I went all the way to the Supreme Court just to come back home with the harvest, a declaration that the IEBC Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee is constitutional, and that the committee has powers under paragraph 15 of the second schedule to the Elections Act to issue summons, because the High Court and the Court of Appeal had taken a totally different position. So they know me as a fighter for justice. I have also represented the commission previously.
Okay, I wanted just one achievement that will suffice.
Thank you, Your
Thank you, and I wish you well.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Then welcome again, Honorable Otieno.
Thank you, Commissioner.
There is a perception out there that that the judiciary is not independent. I would want to hear your thoughts on this. Why do you think that perception is there, and is it true or not from your view?
Thank you, Commissioner. The judiciary is independent and ought to remain independent all through. And this is the prescription of the Constitution. Article 160 of the Constitution is very clear on independence of the judiciary, that the judiciary should not be subject to the control or direction of anybody, any person, except the Constitution and the law. The judiciary is an arm of government and therefore ought to remain independent. The perception is there, just as the perception is there that IEBC, where I work for, is not independent. It is because of the nature of work that the judiciary does that some people perceive that the judiciary is not independent, particularly those who lose cases in court. And in a court situation, there is a winner, there is a loser in most instances. So it's a perception that is not true. The judiciary is for Kenyans. The judiciary derives its authority from the people of Kenya to exercise their sovereign right through judicial processes. This Commissioner, is a matter that has been litigated. If you allow me to mention case law in this area, I will. The Supreme Court, in advisory opinion number 2 of 2014, was faced with this issue, and at paragraph 171 of that advisory opinion, the Supreme Court reiterated the independence of the judiciary as an arm of government.
So how do you deal with the interdependence of the three arms of government, judiciary being one arm of the government?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. The judiciary is one of the arms of government, but it is not supposed to act in isolation. It must act alongside the other arms of government. Of course, heeding the doctrine of separation of powers. Again, this is a matter that has been litigated on. And the court, the High Court, in one of the cases, a case of Trusted Society of Human Rights versus the Attorney General, the High Court stated that whereas the Constitution does not expressly or explicitly mention the words separation of powers, and I'll use the court's language, the Montesquieu influence is palpable in the entire Constitution. So interdependence is allowed, collaboration is allowed, but without ceding independence.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I got one or two questions for you. One is that the Constitution continues throughout its chapters to talk about good leadership and integrity. Which part, or which under the JSC Act, which section talks about this issue, and in the Constitution, where does it repose? And what are the principles of good leadership?
Thank you, Commissioner. The issue around leadership and integrity is a very prime issue that has been given dedication by our Constitution. A whole chapter is dedicated to leadership and integrity, chapter 6 of our Constitution. The principles of leadership and integrity are clearly enunciated in Article 73 of the Constitution. And if you permit me, I will say those principles.
Yeah, sure.
The first principle is that for purposes of appointive offices, appointment to a state office or a public office should be on the basis of personal integrity, should also be on the basis of the competence of a person and his suitability. Suitability because of the constitutional requirement in some cases for consideration of, for instance, regional balancing. And in an elective position, it should be pursuant to a free and fair election. The second principle is on impartiality and objectivity, that a state officer should make decisions, or that his actions should be impartial and should be without any favoritism, any nepotism, or should not be guided by ulterior considerations such as, or motives such as corruption. The third principle is on selfless service as a state officer. And under selfless service, we have the virtues of honesty that a state officer need to exhibit. And where a state officer believes that he is conflicted, he needs to mention or disclose the conflict of interest. And the other is, of course, discipline at his workplace.
Now, you mentioned that the president, and therefore the presidency is the executive. How about the position of head of state? Is it an executive function, or what is it?
Thank you, Commissioner. The head of state is a unifying institution. That office is a unifying institution. He is responsible for the sovereign Republic of Kenya. He represents the country as a head of state and manages he's like the father of the nation. That is to be distinguished from the executive powers, or the powers that the executive arm of government wields, because the executive arm is broad. Of course, it runs from the president through his election.
Fine. That's okay.
Down. Thank you, Commissioner.
When he exercises the prerogative of mass, what role is he playing? Is it the executive or the other one you were just describing?
I want to believe that it's a mix of both. And it's a gray area, Commissioner, that needs to be looked, and probably the courts have an opportunity to develop indigenous jurisprudence in that area. Because it's a mix of both. He says, as the father of the country, I want to pardon through this committee. Yet, he remains the head of the executive arm of government.
Okay, fine. That is debatable.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Honorable CJ. My question to you, what is integrity? What does integrity mean to you as an individual?
Thank you, Commissioner. Integrity means being a good person, of good behavior, good morals, good leadership capabilities, a person who is well-meaning, and a person whose conduct or attributes is not scarred by corrupt practices. Essentially, integrity revolves around the conduct of a person.
Would you term yourself as a person of integrity?
Yes, Commissioner, I'm a person of very high integrity.
What makes you say that?
I am a person of very high integrity because in my 17 years of service, in public service, I have served millions of Kenyans. And there is not even a single Kenyan who has raised integrity issues about me. So through that feedback, I have not received in the 3 commissions that I've worked for, the Judicial Service Commission, the National Police Service Commission, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. My integrity is high.
Please give us one specific incident where your integrity was put to test.
Yes, on the 15th of September, 2022, the presidential election results were declared. We all witnessed the happenings at the Bomas of Kenya and at Serena, where my commissioners were divided. As the legal advisor of the commission, I took the commissioners through the provisions of Article 138 of the Constitution of Kenya on handling of presidential elections and declaration. There were various attempts to persuade me to take a different route. But I stood my ground, and I carried the results, the presidential election results myself. The 459 pages of Form 34C were in my hands. So with that, I believe that I surmounted tests of integrity, tests to compromise the law.
What was your role in that particular situation, and how different would you have done it? Because your work was to guide the commissioners and give them the provisions.
Yes, Commissioner. Given another opportunity, I would do the same thing.
So how different?
Yes.
How are you? My question is, how are you persuaded to do something different out of what your mandate?
There were persuasions that I advise the Commission to go the route of considering the small margin, the small margin that was between the two presidential candidates, so that they could go to a runoff.
Okay, I will take that. My final question, we have seen a lot of attributes in your profile, but one thing does not come out clearly. So if I went back to IBC, which is your current work station, what are the two things your colleagues would tell me they don't like about you?
Probably for the lazy ones. The lazy ones will say that they do not like my hard work. But the good ones celebrate me. In fact, they have given me a name of a member of the bench. I am treated like a judicial officer, the dispenser of justice. If you could find out my nickname at the commission, that shows you that I am appreciated, from the smallest person at IBC to the chairman of the commission.
Because of your strict nature?
Because of my hard work.
Okay.
Because of my ability to advise on the law and to also come up with jurisprudence around the law. My ability not to follow the formal and positivist
so I asked for
statement of the law.
Hard work is one, the other one?
I believe in justice. I'm the custodian of justice at IBC. I am also blessed with very strong interpersonal skills. I relate
that
with.
Was a good thing. If you're just, that's a good thing. So what don't they like about you being just?
For those who find themselves on the wrong side of the law, they may probably not like me, but many have appreciated. Even those who do not like at the first instances some of the decisions that I advise the commission to make, come later on to confirm that indeed I advised correctly.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate, and
Thank
all
you.
the best.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Oh, yes. Justice Ibrahim.
Yes, Commissioner. Yes,
So,
my lord.
I'm just curious, what's your nickname?
Justice Odunga is my mentor. My nickname is CJ at IBC. But I always advise them that it is a small c. A small c, because the CJ of the country is one. The Chief Justice is one. But that is the nickname they gave me. When I joined IBC, everyone calls me CJ, from the smallest person to the chairman, to the CEO.
Thank you.
Thank you. A small c and a big J.
Yes. Thank you very much, commissioners, and thank you very much, council. I am not threatened at all to share the space with you. Anybody advancing justice and leadership can easily share that position. But I'm just curious that you are rendering such valuable services to the IBC. And right now, as we sit here, the IBC is not properly constituted. Don't you think that the duty of core is for you to remain at IBC until at least they find their grounding. You know, otherwise they will accuse us of rending them of the best at this particular time of great need.
Thank you, Your Lordship. I have worked at IBC for 12 years now, rising from the position of a manager to Director Legal Services. When I made up my mind to apply for this position, I approached my CEO and the Deputy CEO, who is my immediate supervisor, and they told me, please pursue. We appreciate you, but please pursue. And why did they advise me to pursue? Is because of the strong relationship that the IBC has, collaboration with the judiciary through the Judiciary Committee on Elections.
And the chair is here.
The chair,
is here.
His Lordship, Justice Ibrahim, is here. And through that collaboration, I have been very helpful to the judiciary by training magistrates, training judges of the High Court, Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court on election administration and electoral dispute resolution. So because of that, I am one leg at IBC and one leg at the judiciary. But because I've been physically at the IBC for 12 years, I think it's an opportune moment for me to cross over home and to do the good job that I can do at home.
That you left.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think this brings us to the end of a very interesting interaction with you. Before we let you go, we always allow a candidate to ask us a question.
Thank you, Your Lordship. I have a small question and then an appreciation. When the Judicial Service Commission published the names of shortlisted candidates, it invited public participation. It invited members of the public to make their comments. My question is, because issues of integrity, I've been asked questions on integrity, competence, hard work, could there be a Kenyan who is dissatisfied with my work and who has filed an adverse comment?
Not any that we know.
Thank you, Your Lordship.
If any had raised, I think for purposes of fair trial, fair hearing, we would have shared it with you. So perhaps, I don't think any has been brought to our attention. You are a good citizen.
Thank you, Your Lordship.
Keep it up.
Thank you, Your Lordship. And now, Your Lordship, allow me to appreciate the Judicial Service Commission for the good work that it has done. So far, the launch of STAG is a milestone, and Kenyans will soon feel the effect of STAG. It is a good thing, and I celebrate the judiciary. I've attended the judiciary functions, the one on launch of the e-filing and the data dashboard and the cost list portal. I've always attended judiciary functions, and I'm happy to report that the judiciary is doing a good job through the stewardship of this committee. I want to thank you for inviting me. Shortlisting is not easy, and for affording me an opportunity to appear before you. May the good Lord bless all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for those compliments. On behalf of the Commission, I also wish you well and congratulate you for your enthusiasm and always thinking outside of the box.
Thank you, Your Lordship.
As you said, not many people went to train as a police officer, and they have dared to do what you have done. So we commend you and wish you well. If you get the job or you don't get, please remain focused on doing the very best like you're doing.
Thank you, Your Lordship.
We will get in touch with you when we complete the exercise.
Thank you very much,
Take
Your
our
Lordship.
greetings to the Commission.
Thank you, Your Lordship. I will, certainly.
Yes, thank you.
God bless.